The story of Adam and Eve is a foundational narrative in human history. It speaks to the very essence of what it means to be human, our capacity for love, our yearning for knowledge, and the consequences of our choices. From the dusty plains of Mesopotamia to the bustling cities of the modern world, the story of Adam and Eve resonates deeply within the human psyche. It offers a glimpse into the dawn of humanity, a time of innocence and wonder. The story of Adam and Eve is more than just a religious text. It is a reflection on the human condition, a parable about the complexities of choice and the enduring power of hope. The story of Adam and Eve, as told in the book of Genesis, is a cornerstone of Abrahamic faiths. It is a story of creation, temptation, and the fall from grace. Each generation has interpreted and reinterpreted the story, finding new meaning and relevance in its timeless themes. It explores universal themes of love, loss, free will, and the consequences of our actions. The story of Adam and Eve is not just a story of the past. It speaks to the challenges and triumphs that are an inherent part of the human experience. Imagine a place of unimaginable beauty, a paradise where crystal-clear rivers flowed through lush gardens and trees groaned under the weight of their fruit. This was the Garden of Eden, a place of peace and abundance, where Adam and Eve, the first man and woman, lived in harmony with nature and with their Creator. The Garden of Eden was more than just a physical location. It was a state of being, a state of innocence and purity. It represented a time when humanity lived in perfect communion with God, free from sin and suffering. It represents the ideal state of humanity, a state of harmony, innocence, and communion with the divine. In the fathomless depths of eternity, before time itself began its relentless march, there was nothing. No sun, no moon, no stars, no earth, no heavens. And yet, within this void, within this seeming nothingness, resided the infinite potential for all that would ever be. It was here in this primordial abyss that God, the uncreated Creator, the author of all that is seen and unseen, stirred. Driven by an unfathomable love and an unquenchable desire to share His boundless glory, He resolved to bring forth a world of wonder. And then it began. With a word, a whisper of divine intent, God spoke creation into being. "Let there be light," He declared, and light blazed forth, shattering the oppressive darkness. Light, pure and radiant, flooded the void, pushing back the shadows and illuminating the nascent universe. With the creation of light, the first day of creation dawned, a day unlike any other, a day that marked the beginning of time and the birth of a universe. Over the next 3 days, God continued His work of creation, shaping the formless void into a symphony of order and beauty. He separated the waters from the heavens, creating the sky above and the seas below. He gathered the waters together, forming vast oceans teeming with life, and raised up the land, sculpting majestic mountains and verdant valleys. He clothed the earth in a vibrant tapestry of plant life, from towering trees to delicate wildflowers. The world was taking shape, a masterpiece unfolding before the eyes of its Creator. On the sixth day, God paused, surveying His creation with satisfaction. The world was good, a testament to His power and glory. And so God formed man from the dust of the ground, shaping him in His image, breathing into his nostrils the breath of life. Adam, the first man, awoke to a world of wonder. He opened his eyes to behold the beauty of creation, the vibrant colors, the sweet scents, the symphony of sounds. With the creation of Adam, the world was complete. On the sixth day of creation, with the world teeming with life, God embarked on His most intricate creation yet. He reached down to the earth, gathering a handful of the finest dust, and began to mold and shape it with His own hands. He carefully sculpted the contours of a man, forming limbs strong and supple, fingers nimble and precise. As God molded the dust, He breathed into it His own divine essence, imparting to it a spark of His own eternal spirit. The figure that emerged from the dust was not yet alive, not yet fully formed. God leaned down towards the still form of man and gently breathed into his nostrils. It was not the wind of the earth that filled his lungs, but the very breath of God, the ruach, the spirit that gives life and animation. As the divine breath flowed into the man's body, his chest rose and fell, his eyes fluttered open, and he drew his first tentative breath. In that moment, something extraordinary occurred. The man, formed from the dust of the earth, became a living soul, a being endowed with consciousness, awareness, and the capacity for relationship. He looked around at the world with wonder and curiosity, his senses alive to the sights, sounds, and smells of creation. God led Adam to a place of exquisite beauty, a garden planted in the east, in Eden. It was a paradise of lush vegetation, fragrant flowers and sparkling streams. Trees laden with delicious fruit grew in abundance, their branches heavy with the bounty of the earth. In the midst of the garden stood two trees, distinct from all the others. One was the tree of life, its fruit offering the promise of eternal life. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, its fruit forbidden to Adam. God instructed Adam to tend the garden, to care for the plants and animals, and to enjoy the fruits of all the trees except for the tree of knowledge. God had created Adam not just to inhabit the garden but to cultivate it, to care for it, and to exercise dominion over it. Adam was to be God's steward, his representative on earth, entrusted with the responsibility of caring for creation and ensuring its flourishing. This dominion was not one of tyrannical rule but of loving care, of nurturing and protecting the delicate balance of life. Adam was to be a gardener, a shepherd, a guardian of the natural world. God had given Adam a profound gift, a responsibility that reflected his own love and care for creation. Adam, the first man, reveled in the wonders of the Garden of Eden. Each day brought new discoveries as he explored the verdant landscapes, tasted the succulent fruits, and befriended the diverse creatures that shared his paradise. Yet, as time passed, a profound sense of solitude began to creep into Adam's heart. He had named all the animals, recognizing in each one a unique and wondrous creature, but none of them, not even the most intelligent or affectionate, could truly share his thoughts, his dreams, or the depths of his being. God, in his infinite wisdom and love, observed Adam's growing loneliness. And so, God determined to create a companion for Adam, a being who would complement him perfectly, a helpmate who would share his life, his love, and his dominion over creation. But God did not create Eve separately from Adam. Instead, he chose to fashion her from Adam himself, taking a rib from his side as he lay sleeping peacefully in the garden. The removal of the rib caused Adam no pain, for God's touch was gentle and his power absolute. He molded the rib with care, shaping it into the delicate frame of a woman. Eve's creation from Adam's rib was a profound symbol of the intimate connection between man and woman. When Adam awoke from his sleep, he was met with a sight that filled him with wonder and delight. Standing before him was a creature unlike any he had seen before, a being both familiar and entirely new. Eve, with her long, flowing hair, her radiant beauty, and her gentle grace, captivated Adam's heart. As he looked into her eyes, he saw a reflection of his own soul, a kindred spirit, a being who understood him in a way that no other creature ever could. He recognized in her, not just a companion but a partner, an equal who would stand beside him, share his burdens, and multiply his joys. Adam, overwhelmed with joy and gratitude, exclaimed,
"This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man."
With those words, Adam acknowledged the profound connection between himself and Eve, a bond that transcended the physical realm and spoke to the very essence of their being. They were one flesh, two halves of a whole, created to complement and complete each other. In that moment of unity and love, Adam and Eve embodied God's ideal for humanity, a vision of harmony, equality, and companionship. The Garden of Eden was a place of tranquility and peace, where Adam and Eve lived in harmony with nature and with God. They tended the garden with love and care, their days filled with the simple joys of exploring their paradise, marveling at the wonders of creation, and delighting in each other's company. But amidst the beauty and bounty of Eden, a sinister force was at work. The serpent, the most cunning of all the animals God had created, slithered through the undergrowth, its eyes gleaming with malice. And so, with honeyed words and subtle deception, it began to weave its web of temptation. The serpent approached Eve as she tended a bed of flowers, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the darkness that lurked in its heart. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden?" it asked, its voice a sibilant whisper that sent a chill down Eve's spine.
We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, "You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die."
Eve's words were a faithful echo of God's command, yet the serpent's question had sown a seed of doubt, a tiny crack in the wall of her obedience. The serpent, sensing Eve's vulnerability, pressed its advantage.
You will not certainly die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
Eve's eyes were drawn to the forbidden fruit, its smooth skin glistening temptingly in the sunlight. The serpent's words echoed in her mind, promising knowledge, power, and a share in God's own divine nature. She had always trusted God, had never questioned his love or his commands, but now, a longing for something more, something beyond the boundaries of her innocent existence, began to stir within her. She reached out a trembling hand and plucked the fruit from the branch. It felt heavy in her palm, its weight a tangible representation of the choice she was about to make. For a moment she hesitated, the gravity of her actions dawning on her. But the serpent's words continued to whisper in her ear, drowning out the voice of reason, urging her to take a bite, to taste the forbidden fruit and claim the knowledge it promised. Eve lifted the fruit to her lips and took a bite. The taste was intoxicating, a mixture of sweetness and bitterness that seemed to spread through her body like a fire. She felt a surge of exhilaration, a sense of liberation from the constraints of her former innocence. She offered the fruit to Adam, who stood beside her, his eyes filled with concern.
Take a bite, my love. It will open your eyes, and we will be like God.
Adam hesitated, torn between his love for Eve and his loyalty to God. But in the end his love for Eve proved stronger than his obedience to God. He took the fruit from her hand and ate it. In that moment the world shifted on its axis. The innocence of Eden was shattered, replaced by the bitter knowledge of good and evil. They had disobeyed God, and the consequences of their actions would reverberate through generations to come. As the last morsel of the forbidden fruit passed Adam and Eve's lips, a profound shift occurred within them. The innocence that had cloaked them like a garment of light began to unravel, replaced by a chilling awareness of their nakedness, both physical and spiritual. Where once they had moved through the garden with carefree abandon, delighting in their unity with nature and with God, they now felt exposed, vulnerable, their bodies suddenly sources of shame. The serpent's promise of enlightenment had proven to be a cruel deception. Instead of being lifted to a higher state of being, they felt a disquieting separation from the divine, a chasm opening between themselves and their creator. The harmony that had once defined their existence was shattered, replaced by a discord that echoed through their very souls. The knowledge of good and evil, once a distant concept, now flooded their awareness, casting dark shadows on the once bright landscape of their hearts. They saw for the first time the potential for cruelty, for deceit, for suffering, realities that had been hidden from them in their state of innocence. The once familiar sounds of the garden, the gentle rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, now seemed to mock their newfound shame. They cowered among the trees, their eyes darting nervously, their bodies trembling with a fear they had never known before. The ground on which they had once walked with confidence now seemed to burn beneath their feet, each step a reminder of their transgression. When they heard the sound of God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, their fear intensified. They had always delighted in his presence, had looked forward to his visits with eager anticipation. But now, the thought of facing him filled them with dread. They knew they had broken his trust, had violated his one command, and they were terrified of the consequences. They attempted to hide themselves among the dense foliage, their fig leaf garments a poor substitute for the innocence they had lost. But they could not hide from God. He saw their shame, their fear, their desperate attempts to conceal themselves from his gaze. "Where are you?" God called out, his voice resonating through the garden, a blend of sorrow and disappointment. Adam, his voice trembling, responded from his hiding place.
I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid.
His words were a confession, not only of their physical nakedness, but also of the spiritual emptiness that now gnawed at their hearts. God questioned them, his words a gentle probe seeking to understand the depth of their transgression.
"Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?"
He already knew the answers, of course, but he allowed them the dignity of confessing their sin. Adam, blaming Eve, and Eve in turn, blaming the serpent, revealed the depth of their deception, their unwillingness to take full responsibility for their actions. And so, God pronounced his judgment, a judgment tempered with mercy, a consequence designed not to punish them eternally but to teach them the gravity of their choice. God cursed the serpent, condemning it to crawl on its belly and eat dust. To the woman, he said, "I will multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." And to Adam, he declared, "Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." The harmony of Eden was broken. The relationship between man and woman, once characterized by equality and mutual respect, was now marred by pain, struggle, and a hierarchical power dynamic. The earth itself seemed to groan under the weight of their sin, its bounty now yielding only through toil and hardship. Yet even in their exile, even in the midst of their brokenness, God offered a glimmer of hope. He clothed them in garments of skin, a tangible expression of his enduring love and a foreshadowing of the ultimate sacrifice he would one day make to redeem them and all of creation. With heavy hearts, Adam and Eve turned away from Eden. The paradise that had been their home was now closed, guarded by cherubim. They were exiles facing a world tainted by disobedience. Each step was into the unknown, a journey of toil and sweat. Yet a flicker of hope remained. God had not abandoned them, clothing them in garments of skin. The story of Adam and Eve is not merely a tale of ancient origins, but a timeless parable that continues to resonate deeply within the human experience. It speaks to the power of choice, the allure of forbidden knowledge, and the enduring consequences of our actions. It reminds us that even in the midst of paradise, temptation lurks, and the path of disobedience, however enticing it may seem, ultimately leads to pain, separation, and loss. The legacy of Adam and Eve is one of both blessing and burden. They were created in God's image, endowed with intelligence, creativity, and the capacity for love, relationships, and dominion over creation. Yet they also inherited a flawed nature, a vulnerability to temptation that would have lasting repercussions for all their descendants. From generation to generation, the echoes of their choice reverberate through the annals of human history. We see it in the ongoing struggle between good and evil, in the conflicts that rage within and between individuals and nations, and in the environmental degradation that threatens the delicate balance of life on Earth. Despite the tragic consequences of their disobedience, the story of Adam and Eve is not without hope. Even in the midst of judgment, God's mercy shines through. He promised that one day, A descendant of Eve would crush the serpent's head, overcoming the power of sin and death. This promise, a beacon of light in the darkness of their exile, pointed toward a future redemption, a restoration of the broken relationship between God and humanity. The seeds of that redemption were sown in the very act of their expulsion from Eden. God's provision of clothing, His promise of a Redeemer, and His enduring presence in their lives, however distant it may have seemed at times, were all testaments to His unwavering love and faithfulness. The story of Adam and Eve is not just about a fall from grace, but also about the possibility of rising again, of finding redemption and restoration through faith, repentance, and the transformative power of God's love.